everyone, this is PK Entertainment and we're back again, and here now we have another video for you, and this will be just some box office reporting on Dune Part 2 and its opening weekend of release within theatres from Friday the 1st of March to Sunday the 3rd of March 2024. So we'll get straight into the numbers then, and in its opening weekend within US cinemas, the sequel managed to gross around 82.5 million, easily taking the top spot from the Bob Marley biopic, ending its 2-week run at number 1. Internationally, the movie took in around 96 million for a global total tally of around 179 million worldwide. So what do these numbers mean then? Is this opening big enough to warrant the super positive hype and reviews around the film? Will it fully justify Part 3 being made? Or will we end up having a very strong opening before it faltering away in its following weeks of release? Well, overall, I'd say it's a strong start, nothing mind-blowing in comparison to other big event films. But it's a good showing for a serious sci-fi of what we have to remember is very much a cult franchise that doesn't have the same cultural resonance as what we would regard with the likes of both Star Wars or Star Trek. Yes, it had all of the visuals and spectacle of a big blockbuster, but it's not exactly a 4-quadrant event film, and it will definitely have appealed much more to an adult audience rather than a younger audience. But at the same time, the casting of Chalamet, Zendaya, Florence Pugh, Austin Butler definitely would have raised the younger audience interest within the film. We also have to consider that another reason why the film didn't hit the 100 million plus opening weekend is because the first film did polarise some viewers who found it a bit lacking in characterisation and a bit bland in terms of its overall storytelling. But overall, people will ask the question now, how big will Dune Part 2 be? Can it go on to become the first billion-dollar grossing movie of 2024? Well, I'd say it probably needed a bigger opening than what it got. Normally $1 billion grossing movies generally hit around $100 million opening weekend to start off with, but of course this isn't necessary. If a film has strong word of mouth, it can open smaller but have longer legs in terms of the following weekends. I've seen many comparisons online to last year's Oppenheimer, which had around an $87 million opening weekend and went so close to hitting $1 billion worldwide. Now we do have to remember in terms of that movie, the success was primarily driven to its association with Barbie. The so-called Barbenheimer event did for a very short while tap into the cultural zeitgeist in terms of the modern day social media audience. But Dune Part 2 doesn't have that benefit this time round. Now what it does have is no real competition for at least 2 to 3 weeks following its release, so the scope is definitely there for a lengthy run at the top. Now will the franchise have the same appeal and big grosses worldwide in order for it to get to 1 billion? I'm not quite as sure. Again, I think the more serious tone may put off some viewers. For the most part, overseas audiences generally want much more of that fun, brighter, easily accessible film that they could just go and sit there and enjoy for 2.5 hours. And Dune isn't quite that, again, because of the complexity of the source material. Even though we understand that Denis Villeneuve, the director, had to compress a lot of it down in order to make these movies. Many of the more hardcore Dune fans have still stated that overall this should have been adapted into a miniseries, and I definitely agree with that sentiment. But of course, Dune Part 2 doesn't have to hit $1 billion. Again, we have to kind of come away from this mindset that every film has to hit $1 billion in order to be deemed successful. Again, we do have to take into account the film's budget and overall its marketing. Now, I do believe that this Part 2 had a budget of around 190 million, which is probably comparatively a bit smaller than what we've seen, certainly within the last year or two, of many event movies where we're looking at the budgets of anywhere from around 250 to 300 million. So I'd say anywhere from a gross of around 600 to 800 million is probably more likely, and that would be good enough for the movie to be definitely deemed a success, and would give Warner Brothers enough confidence to officially greenlight a Part 3, which will definitely look to adapt the second book titled Dune Messiah, which would be a much more challenging task for Denis Villeneuve than what he had with parts 1 and 2. But as I said, overall this was not a mind-blowing debut, and it definitely to an extent debunked what I feel is very much of the overhype surrounding this film. In all the comparisons of it being a genre-defining masterpiece, comparisons made to Lord of the Rings and Star Wars, so if it was on that level, then in this current climate and times, we would surely be expecting at least $100 million gross movie for its opening weekend, and Dune 2 didn't quite achieve that. I also disagree with the fact that this is sending a clear message to Hollywood as to how they should project their future event films. While yes indeed we should be looking to make sure that all event movies have a certain quality and depth to them, but the fact is that we are likely going to get films that could be considered far less substantial and far less serious than Dune Part 2 that will probably go on to make more money. So this is what I really think we should be kind of dialing back a bit on the whole perception and hype surrounding this film. Overall, I think again it was a decent, well-produced adaptation sequel that will probably end up being very successful at the box office, but I just feel overall it's going to fall short of that $1 billion mark that many people are propelling it to be. Again, that doesn't need to be the prerequisite in order for it to be deemed to a success. So in that regard, I think Dune Part 2 will definitely be certainly one of the highest grossing movies of 2024 and definitely justify, certainly in terms of Warner Brothers, going full ahead with Part 3. So there's my overall thoughts and feelings when looking back at the opening box office weekend of Dune Part 2. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and if you have any other further suggestions regarding any other movies, television series, or any other subjects within the pop entertainment and pop culture scene that you'd like to see me cover, then also let me know within the comments, and I will see if I can provide further commentary for you on that subject matter within the future. Please also hit and like the subscription and notification buttons so I can provide you with more high quality content like this in the future. But that's it for now. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you very, very soon.